Okay, good evening, everyone. As you can see from the background over here, we're once again back in my house. Because I'm sure that all of you have heard already that the houses of worship were once again closed up under lock and key. It's very dangerous to go to a house of worship. People might actually daven to Hashem while they're there. They might learn, they might do chesed, they might get some yirah shamayim, some fear of Hashem while they're there. They might have deeper levels of emunah, of faith, to be able to carry them through the challenges of these periods of time in our life. So the governor said, just like malls have to close, and just like private businesses that are non-essential have to close, and just like the gym, you can't go pump iron anymore because it's also very dangerous to your health. I mean, I understand people are lifting weights and they are sweaty and they are on the same equipment as everybody else. So it's a threatening place to transfer germs. I understand if there's hundreds and thousands of people in a mall and they're going around and they're picking up clothing and they're shopping and so on and so forth. So it's a very dangerous thing. But apparently a house of worship, a shul, a yeshiva, Beis HaMidrash, a Beis HaKnesses, apparently we're in the same danger category as those places as well. And so we had to close the doors once again in Makor HaChaim, unfortunately. I say with great sadness because it's not normal to be davening. Baruch Hashem, we're able to daven with a minyan in a backyard, but it's not the same thing. And so once again, I don't have time to run to shul, to give the shir out of the shul. So I'll be in my study here in my house, and we'll try to give the shir over here. I would like to speak about a Mishnah tonight in PIRKEI AVOS that is found in the end of the first chapter. In many prints, it's the second to the last of the Mishnayos that we have over here. In this particular print that I'm looking at, it's Mishnah Yud Zayin, second to the last one in the chapter. And it says the following words: Shimon benoi Omer. Shimon, the son of Rabbi Gamliel, said the following words: Kol yomai gedalti bein hachachamim. All of my life I was raised amongst the chachamim, amongst the wise, the great scholars of the generation. You imagine that's where he was raised. He wasn't raised in Los Angeles. He wasn't raised in New York. He wasn't raised on some tropical island someplace. He was raised bein hachachamim, amongst the chachamim, amongst the great sages of his generation. And when you're raised amongst great people, you learn great things. The story that I've told over many times, I don't know if I told it over in this venue yet, but someone that I'm very close to here in Los Angeles, his name is Rabbi Moshe Gavitsky. And he was very close to one of the great chachamim, the great sages of our generation, whose name was Rav Simcha Wasserman. And Rav Simcha Wasserman was from an illustrious family in Europe. He managed to survive through the war. He came to America. He lost everything in Europe, and he left it all behind. And he survived, and he rebuilt Torah here in America, and eventually went on to Eretz Yisrael to settle down there at the end of his life. In the end of his life, he came back to America because he was very ill, and there was special treatments that he needed over here. And it was the last Yom Kippur of his life was coming, and Rav Moshe Gavitsky wanted very badly to be in the hospital together with Rav Simcha Wasserman, to be able to take care of him, to wait on him hand and foot. It was his Rebbe. It's nothing greater than being able to be mishamish, to take care of a Rebbe and be there for him. And so he kept asking the family, can I come? Can I come for Yom Kippur? I'll stay in the hospital. I'll take care of the Rebbe. I'll do whatever it is that he needs, please. And they kept saying, no, Reb Moshe, stay with your family, stay with your wife, stay with your children. It's okay. He's going to be all right over here. We'll get him some help. It's going to be okay. Now, Rav Simcha had no children. So it wasn't like he had a child or a grandchild to come and be in the hospital together with him throughout that ordeal. So finally, after weeks of pressing on the family and asking them, could he come and spend the Yom Kippur together with Reb Simcha Wasserman in the hospital, Reb Simcha said, if Moshe wants to come, let him come already. And so he came. And he took care of Simcha day and night. He was there from before Yom Kippur began, and all of Yom Kippur he was waiting on him hand and foot. And he brought him to the bed, and he brought him out of the bed, and he brought him a machzeh that he could daven with. And I believe Rav Simcha had to eat that last Yom Kippur, and he brought him what he had to eat and how much he was able to eat. And he took care of all of his details, all of his needs. Somewhere in the middle of the day on Yom Kippur, in the afternoon time, Rav Simcha looked at Rav Moshe and he said to him, "Tell me, Rav Moshe, who's getting more out of this relationship? Me or you?" So Moshe Gavitsky told me the following. He said, in my mind, the answer was that obviously Rav Simcha is getting much more because I'm waiting on him hand and foot. I take care of all of his needs. I give him everything that he could possibly want. He's not lacking for anything, and I'm working like a dog over here to make sure that he's taken care of. He says, but you know what? In the presence of Chachamim, in the presence of great people, you don't speak. You remain silent and you listen to what it is that they have to say. And so if Simcha looked at him and he said, you know who's getting more out of this relationship? Either me or you? He said, Rav Moshe, you are. Because you are the giver and I am the taker. And a giver always gets more than a taker. Said Reb Shimon Benoi, Reb Shimon, the son of Rabbi Gamliel, that Kol Yamai Gedalti Ben Chachamim, all of my life I was raised amongst the sages. I was around wise men, I sat by their feet. I was in their homes. I went to the store with them. I walked the streets with them. I was at their chasanas. I was everywhere you could imagine them. I was there as well. And because that I was raised amongst them, I learned very valuable and wise lessons. Not what I learned on my phone. That's not chachamim. Those are not the sages of our Gemara. Not what I learned on TV last night while I was falling half asleep. Those are not the chachamim. Those are not the sages that are going to teach you something valuable. Not the WhatsApp video of superfluous, ridiculous ideas that went viral in the world today that everybody's looking at and laughing and watching it another time. Those are not chachamim. Those are not the sages of this world that you can learn something valuable from. You can learn stupidity from such people. You can learn foolishness from such people. You can learn idiocy, whatever the word is, idiocy from such people. You can't learn chachma, wisdom from such people. I have a cousin who used to live in Bnei Brak. When he came to America, he used to come to America to raise money for a certain yeshiva that he was affiliated with. And he would meet people, and he would speak about his life in Bnei Brak, and it once came up that he didn't have a television. Someone said to him, you don't have a television? How can you live without a television? So he said to them, people that I would not let into my front door, I'm certainly not going to let them in my living room to educate my children. Says Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon is saying over, I was raised bein hachachamim, amongst the wise. And I watched their lives, and I listened to what they had to say. And I watched the way that they treated each other, how they spoke to one another. I watched the kavod habrios, the tremendous honor and respect that there was between them. I listened to their words. I listened to the way they talked about Torah. I heard what was making them excited in this world. I listened, I heard. And this is the message that I derived. This is the message that I derived from being amongst the Chachamim, being amongst the sages. And with this, says Rabbi Shimon, it was kedai, it was worthwhile to be raised my entire life amongst the wise men, so that I should know the following secret of life. V'loi matzasi laguf toif. I found nothing better for my body, for my existence, for who I am as a person, ela shesika, rather than silence. I found nothing better in my life because of being exposed to the world of the chachamim, of the sages, than shesika, than shtika, than silence. V'lo hamidrash hu ha'ikar. The midrash, and you should know, says Rabbi Shimon, the drasha, the expounding on the words the conversation, the talking, the rousing speeches. That's not the ikr, that's not the main thing. Ela ha'maisa, the main thing in life is the maisa, is the action itself. Is if you do something and you accomplish something. Anybody can get on their soapbox and they can start darshaning and they can start expounding about what they think was going on in the world and what the meaning of life is all about. Or either that, or you can open up a podcast, or you get yourself a blog. If you really want people to listen to what you have to say, you'll make a new podcast channel for yourself somewhere on YouTube, and you'll try to get as many friends as you possibly can signing up on your Facebook page, and you'll blog out all of your important words that you have to offer about your criticisms on the government and on the police and on the riots and on health and on coronavirus, the hoax that it really is. And you'll just blog and you'll podcast all day long. Or maybe you will start your own app. It'll be the Me app, and you'll just blog out and you'll just app out and you'll just send messages all day long about everything you have to say. Or maybe you'll be even more famous, and we'll get you a station on AM radio, and you can sit there all day long with that droning voice, filled with gaiva, filled with conceit and haughtiness, and you can, as if you ever did anything more valuable in your life besides be behind a glass screen over there with a microphone. You never ran the country, you never ran an organization, you never did anything that gained you real recognition, and yet you could run the country better than the president, you can run it better than the governor, you can do better than the police chief, better than the fire chief, you're better than the Secretary of State. You would never do this, you would never do that. Really, let's see what you do when you're sitting in the seat over there and you're running a country and you're doing this and you're doing that. You have no idea. But the world of the not chachamim, the world that are not sages, they like to talk. They love to talk. They love to espouse their opinions. And this is why I want to focus in on this Mishnah tonight, because as once again we go into quarantine, to an extent over here in Los Angeles, once again as they ban us from going to certain public places, one of them being unfortunately our shuls, once again. And as we look around and we see the world that is asunder with so much strife and so much angst and so much tension that's going on right now, and there's GOP conventions that they're trying to plan, and there's a Democratic convention that they're trying to plan, and there's the world is falling apart, and now China, everybody hates China, and we're going to go against them, and we'll do this, and we'll paint names on the street in front of Trump Towers, all the different things that we're doing in the world right now. So one thing that you have to listen to very carefully, everybody has an opinion, and they talk about it on their talk shows, it's on their podcasts, it's in their blogs, it's on their radio stations, it's on television, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's in your phone, it's everywhere you look. Everybody has an opinion, and nobody has any problem at all letting their mouth run and run and run and run to make sure that we all know what their opinion is. Says Rabbi Shimon, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, one of the great sages who perished at the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, we're talking about long before we walked this earth. And he says, I was around Chachamim. I saw their lives. I never saw them have a blog. I never saw them with a podcast. I never saw them on AM radio, just telling everybody how they would run the world if they were in charge, instead of these nitwits that are over there in the government running it. I never saw them do that. I never saw them sitting around like the wealthy men of the world talking about their conquests and their money and their riches and their jewels and what they accomplished in the material world. I never saw them do that. I never saw them sit by a ball game for 3 hours and critique every single move and every single play and every this and every that. I never saw such a thing. I never heard such a thing. I sat amongst the Chachamim, said Rabbi Shimon. You know what I heard? Nothing. I didn't hear them say much. I learned from them a lot of silence. Opinions and words are cheap. They are filled with hot air. There's nothing behind what a person is saying. Because the main thing is not the drushes and how much you say and what you think and what your opinions are. We don't really care about your opinions. Ella hamaisa, we want to see the actions. How are you going to follow through with all of your great criticisms on the world? How are you going to follow through with all of your magnificent ideas to make this planet a better place? As all of the inventors have said, if you're not willing to keep trying and failing and failing and failing and failing, you'll never get any place. I think they say Thomas Edison, it took him 863 tries, something like that, to create a light bulb that you could turn on and work. 863 tries. Ein hamidrash ha'ikr. The main thing is not the talking. I want to have a light. I want to have electricity. Allah Maisi, you got to keep doing and plugging away and doing it more and more and more and more and more. Says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, I sat amongst Chachamim and I learned something, and I didn't learn anything more valuable for myself. Talk is cheap. It's a bunch of hot air. It just comes out of the mouth and then it gets lost somewhere in outer space over there. Most words never come to fruition. Most things that people talk about are nonsense. Most plans that a person has, the best laid plans, laid to waste. To waste, said Rabbi Shimon. And I saw it with my eyes. But I saw the Chachamim, I saw the sages, the great leaders of Klal Yisrael, filled with the knowledge and the breath of Torah, filled with the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His Ratzon and His will here in this world, what He wants from us. And you know what was striking? They sit all day long and they learn, which means that they're going into the depths of Torah wisdom, yet you don't hear much out of them. You don't have many opinions. They're not going to tell you everything they think about the President of the United States and how they could do a better job than him. They might not be happy with Governor Newsom right now because he closed the shuls again, but they're not going to sit around for 3 hours and talk about why did he do this and why did he do that and he let this stay open. They're not going to talk about it. You know why? Because that's not what life is all about. You get nowhere by talking. Nowhere by talking. The only movement that a person makes in this world is hamaisa, is the action itself. V'chol amar b'devarim, and then he ends with these words. Anyone who is marbe devarim, who increases his words, he is incessantly rattling off his opinions, his ideas, his drushes, so on and so forth. Maybe chait, they will bring sin upon themselves. Just get out there and do something. Get out there and be active. Get out there and make a difference. Get out there and turn the world over. Turn your own world over. Change yourself if you could. But to sit around on your couch, on your chair, in the coffee shop, why don't they close coffee shops? Because then people would really go crazy. The gym, okay, you put on a few pounds. The shul, okay, so you won't daven today. But the coffee shop, where are we going to shoot the breeze if we don't have a coffee shop? Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, v'chol marbe devarim. Anyone who is marbe, who increases, cannot stop his mouth from just rattling away and prattling away, maybe chait, they end up bringing sin upon themselves. The Chavetz Chaim actually learns out from here in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim, which is speaking about Lashon Hara. He says you should never even praise a person excessively. Because if you sit there and you praise somebody excessively, he's such a tzaddik, he's such a wonderful person, he does so much chesed, he's so kind, you can't imagine. You don't know what he did for me, you don't know how he took care of me, so on and so forth. Somebody else is going to sit there, oh really? I think so. Let me tell you a little bit something about this person over here. I was once by a levaya, I was officiating at a funeral. And it was a very emotional family. And each one, the grandchildren, the parents, everybody was very emotional in that family. And I knew they were going to give very emotional hespedim eulogies about the nifta, the person who passed away. And they said that the grandfather who passed away was a very old man, an older man, and he still had some friends from the Navy that were alive. And one of his Navy friends, Joe, wanted to speak by the levaya, by the funeral. So I said, are you really sure you want to do that? I mean, you guys are emotional. You're heartsick. You're heartfelt people. Your eulogy is going to be beautiful. They're going to paint a very illustrious picture of your grandfather and your father. I'm afraid this guy's going to get up there and he's going to end the roast. No. They were like best friends for all these years. He's only going to say the nicest things. I said, okay, I guess we'll find out. So after, the grandson is crying like a baby, and the son is crying like a baby, and the granddaughters are crying like babies about their grandfather, and they're highlighting all of his points, what a beautiful man he was, what about chesed he was, how kind he was, his midos, his character, everything. Then I have to call up the departed's dear friend, Joe from the Navy. They've been together since they were back in basic training together, and he would like to share a few words. And so this man gets up after such an emotional, beautiful, uplifting experience of eulogies, and he says, you all heard about Johnny, what they had to say. Now I'm going to tell you who Johnny really was. And then he went into an entire litany of all the sinful and frivolous things they did all their lives while they were together as friends in the Navy. Anybody who says too many words, who talks too much, maybe they end up bringing sin to themselves and other people. Nobody can sit there quietly and just listen to all the good things about somebody else. So it starts eating them up alive. Why don't people talk about me like that? How come I'm not such a tzaddik like that? And so what ends up happening is they end up saying things that are maybe chait, that bring sin to this world. So Shimon ben Gamliel said over here the following. He says, I learned from the best. And from the best I learned, be quiet. Don't talk so much. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. Rather, we'd like to see, what can you do with your life? How can you accomplish something in your life? How can you make this world a better place by making yourself a better person? Lanu, let's see something. Rather, I found like Matsasi Laguf Tav Elishasika, just silence. Silence. Now, this is one of the greatest nisyonos, one of the greatest challenges of mankind, is to be quiet and don't give over your opinion. Don't share what's on your mind. Don't tell everybody what you think under the circumstances. We know that man was created b'tselem Elokim. And being created in the godly image means, as Unclus writes in the Chumash, we were given a ruach memalalo, we were given an ability to speak. Only man can speak. Animals, I was just at the zoo yesterday. Animals cannot speak. They can make noises, they can grunt, they can chirp, they can eat, whatever the monkeys are going to do over there, but they cannot speak. They cannot have an intelligent conversation where they can be articulate in the words that they use. They don't know adjectives, they don't know verbs, pronouns, they don't know any of that. They don't know the rules of grammar. That doesn't exist by them. There's grunts, and there's whistles, and there's chirps, and there's noises and guttural groans that will come out of their mouth. That's it. Only a human being was gifted with the power of speech. And that means that it is something very ruchni, something very spiritual. Because it is truly the connection between one's neshama, one's soul, which is inside of them, and they're able to express the deeper levels of their neshama out here into this world. No other creature in the entire universe is able to do such a thing. So speech is the modicum that makes a human being something that is totally different than any other species that there is in the world. That being said, the place where man is also going to be nichshel, where we're going to stumble and where we're going to fall, is in that which makes us greater than everything else in this world. As the Gemara says, Kol hagadol mechaveroi, the greater that somebody is from somebody else, Yetzer hara gadol mimenu, the Yetzer hara is greater than them, is also greater than them as well. So we are greater than all of the land animals, greater than all the sea animals and the flying birds in the sky. because we have the ability to speak, to connect the depth of our neshama, the deepest thoughts that we have here into this world. So therefore, in that area is going to lie the greatest Yetzer Hara possible, in our speech. That's why speech is so violent. When it comes to, for example, when it comes to Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is the sin that the Chavetz Chaim says destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. Lashon Hara destroys lives, marriages, relationships, businesses, people, reputations. It's destructive. What did you do? Nothing. Only words that you can't even see came out of your mouth. Words that you cannot see came out of your mouth, and you cannot take them back. The mouth is a powerful vehicle. Like Shlomo Melech says, that maves v'chaim, death and life is biyad haloshin, is in the hand of the tongue. It doesn't say, the Alshich writes, it doesn't say chaim umaves, life and death is in the hands of the tongue. Rather, death and life is in the hands of the tongue, because the death that you could create with your vicious tongue is much more eminent than the life that you're going to breed with the tongue, with the mouth that you were given. It's a destructive weapon. It's lethal, what goes on over here. And therefore the Chachamim, the sages, understood. They understood very clearly that the greatest thing that you can do for yourself is be in control of your mouth. Don't mouth off. Don't prattle on and on and on. Don't talk and talk incessantly about things that are not important, because you are accomplishing nothing. On the other hand, perhaps with all of your chatter, you're really hurting yourself. Rav Chaim Kanievsky brings down in the Orchis Yosha, which many of us learn together in the WhatsApp group in the morning. In the letter Shin, he asks for shtika, for silence. And he writes over there, a fascinating midrash, should put everybody's hair on end over here. At the time when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was planning on creating any individual, he decrees upon him how many conversations he's going to be able to have, and how many words he's going to speak. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu is creating a human being, he puts into his fuel tank of words how many conversations he'll be allowed to have and how many words he's going to speak. King David says a similar idea. I don't have any extra words in my mouth. Hashem knows exactly how many I'm going to have. And if a person speaks too much, more than the allotted amount of words that he's supposed to have, he should be concerned that perhaps the fuel tank of speech has run out. And if the fuel tank of speech runs out, that means life itself runs out as well. Says the Midrash, how careful a person has to be with their words. You are only allotted a certain amount of words in this world. You better make sure that you use them wisely. We have to make sure that we're speaking about things that are elevating and make sense. We should speak about things that are empowering, that are going to help us change and become better people. Not to sit around and rattle off opinion after opinion on our blogs and our logs and our whatever it is that we have over there. But rather to use our words. To use our words for something that is constructive and productive. Otherwise, they're gone. They run out. There's a Maisa, famous, a well-known story. The Chazon Ish and the Brisker Rav were both the two Gedolim, two great leaders of Klal Yisrael, living in Eretz Yisrael in the 40s and the 50s, maybe even into the 60s. And the Chazon Ish lived in Bnei Brak, and the Brisker Rav lived in Yerushalayim in Jerusalem. And it was once a Chol HaMoed, and they decided that the Chazon Ish and the Brisker Rav, they should meet with each other. They rarely ever would see each other, and it was Chol Hamoed. It was the intermediary days of between the festivals, and so there was quote unquote extra time to go and travel and to see one another. So the Chazon Ish came to visit the Brisker Rav, and the Brisker Rav knew that the Chazon Ish, who was the great leader of Torah Jewry at the time, was coming to visit. He put on, of course, it was a Chol Hamoed anyway. He had his Shabbos clothing on, and the house was clean, spick and span. And he was very excited to welcome one of the Gedolei Hador, leaders of the generation, into his house. Chazon Ish came, and Brisker Rav smiled and welcomed him in. They didn't say a word. They sat down at the table. They sat there, they looked at each other. They nodded their head, smiled. They sat there, everybody's watching. What are these two giants going to say to one another? They sat there quietly. Another minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They looked at one another again, smiled, silence. Finally, after about 15 or 20 minutes of absolute silence, Chazon Ish nodded to the Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav nodded to the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish got up, the Brisker Rav walked in the door, and that was the end of their meeting. Lematzasi leguf taif. I was raised amongst Chachamim, and I didn't find anything better for my entire body, my entire being, and my essence, ela shesika, silence. Because, as the Chazon Ish himself said, al shtika ein mischartin, you'll never regret silence. If you talk too much, you'll probably come to regret it. You'll say things. How many times do we have to apologize to our wives because we said the wrong thing? Just keep your mouth shut. How many times do we have to come to our children as they get older and say, "Oi, I'm so sorry that I said those things. I never should have called you those names." Just keep your mouth quiet. How many times in shul did somebody bother us with the noises that they're making and we say, "Hey, what are you doing?" Just keep your mouth quiet. Why do you have to talk? Did anybody ask you for your opinion? Did anybody ask you for your thoughts on the subject, on the matter? Nobody did. But since that a man was created b'tselem Elokim, we're created in the image of God, the way that we express our essence into this world, so people will know who we are, that's what we think. The way that people will know who we are is if they hear the words that we have to say. Like it says in Mishlei, Ish lefi mahalaloi. A person according to mahalaloi, according to the people that praise him. That's a simple explanation. Ish, a person, lefi, according to mahalaloi, those who praise him. You want to know who a person is? Let's see the people that praise him. Let's see what they praise him about. Let's hear the praises they sing about this person. He's so kind, he's so giving, he's so generous, he's so compassionate. He'll be there for you. He's a friend till the end. He's the greatest. Ish lefi mahalaloi, whatever they praise him about, that must be who he is. Says Rabbeinu Yoino, that's not how you define a person. Ish lefi mahalaloi, you want to know who a person is based on what he praises and who he praises and what he talks about. That's how you know who the person is. The guy sits around all day long and he talks about sports. Okay, he's a sports fan. He sits around all day long and he talks about the president. Okay, he's a fan of Trump. He sits around all day long and he talks about the liberal Democrats. Okay, so he's liberal. He sits around all day long and he talks about Torah, talks about Hashem, talks about mitzvahs. So then that's who he is. That's what he thinks is important in this world. So a person begins to think the following. If I'm silent, if I don't talk, no one's going to know who I am. No one will know what I think. No one will know what I'm all about. I got to talk and talk and talk so everybody can hear what I have to say. Says Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, not true. I was around the Chachamim, the greatest minds in the generation. I never heard them talk. Only I saw them do one thing, Maisa, action. Because talk is cheap, it gets you absolutely nowhere. I want to know who you are because you talk. As it says over here, the Bartanor writes, Iker, lo amidjusha Iker Maisa. The main thing is not talking, it's the action you do. And he writes the following. Listen to his words. And he says, because you can have people that get up and they darshan so good, and they speak so good, and they're riveting, and they're passionate, and they're passionate and empowering, and they're inspiring, and it's amazing the way that they talk. So you would expect such a person talks like that. He's the life coach. He's amazing. He does it all. Yeah. He gets everybody pumped up. You would think this guy's the one that's going to do everything. However, says the Bartanor over here, what about a person who talks and talks and talks and then never lives up to the words that he talks about? He never follows through with the drushes that he gives. I was once at a I forget, maybe it was a Sheva Brach or something, and somebody got up there and they were giving an impassioned drasha. It was the Parsha Shlach, and it was the Parsha of Tzitzis, and the person was giving an impassioned drasha about the mitzvah of tzitzis, how amazing it is and wonderful it is, and how we have to wear them, we have to see them, all the mitzvahs are in there. And everybody was like, wow, this is unbelievable, this guy's incredible. And then as he was walking to sit down from after giving his drasha, he passed me and I looked. I wanted to see, he must have beautiful tzitzis. He talks about them so nicely. And I realized that the person wasn't wearing tzitzis. Says the Bartanor, Hadarish Reinu Makayim. Somebody who darshans and he speaks and he says, yes, this is the way. But he doesn't do it. Noyach loy imayashaisek v'lah hayadarish. Would have been better to keep your mouth closed and not said a single word, because you just undermined your entire self by doing such a thing. We are not defined by what we say. We are not defined by the things that we talk about. You will not really know the person better if you hear their opinions or their criticisms on the entire universe and the world around us. No. You know who the person is by the ma'aseh, by the actions that they perform, the way in which they follow through. Better to say a little and to do a lot than to say a lot and do a little or do nothing at all. And therefore, says the Mishnah over here, if a person truly wants to be able to express themselves in this world, and they want to be able to grow in a positive direction, and they want to be able to elevate themselves from the doldrums of society, the way to do that is, don't make a blog or a podcast for yourself. Don't sit around and shoot the breeze all day long. People think it's summertime. What is summertime for? Summertime is for wasting time. That's not true. Summertime is not for wasting time. Summertime is for also being a person of Maisa, of action and activity. They have all these wonderful summer camps, the religious summer camps. What do the kids do? They have to have fun. They have to have a blast. They have to go and let off some steam after a long year, especially after coronavirus. Nevertheless, they wake up in the morning, they daven, they learn for several hours, and at 1 o'clock, it's lunchtime, and the rest of the day go and you play sports. Now, what do they do at night? After the sports and after the trips and after they let loose and they let off the steam, they come back again at night and they keep plunging to the chachma, to the wisdom that there is inside the Torah, and they learn. Because summertime was meant for fun, yes. It was meant to get a little bit of fresh air, R&R, all that is true. We have to take vacations and take our families out of Los Angeles and get our minds out of the coronavirus syndrome that we're all in right now. Yes, all true. But we still have to accomplish. We still have to do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still waiting for us to do positive things in this summertime. How we're going to learn and we're going to daven and we're going to grow. We're going to work on our midos and our character traits. We're going to affect the world in a better way. Look, the Rebbeinu Shem clapped us again tonight. Again we got clapped. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you think I like having you in shul? You think it was such an amazing shul experience, having you back there for the last 4 weeks? Guess what? I'm not impressed. Go home. Go back to your backyard. Go home again. What I need you there for? You come in, you mope around with your masks on, you complain. People don't come to shul. They don't want to come to shul. So you have 12, 14, 15, 20, 30, 50 people that are in shul when there should be hundreds and thousands of people there. And the people that are there, all they're doing is complaining. Ugh, it's mass. this mask, it's so hard. How can you daven with this mask? Can't even see a person. I can't even breathe. You came to shul to complain? Is that why you came to shul? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, for 3 months, I didn't let you in shul. 3 months. 3 months. And now you have a chance to be in shul? Now you have a chance to be in shul? What are you going to do? You're going to complain about a mask? You're going to complain because there's no cholent. Oh, shul's just not the same. There's no cholent. Is that why you came back to shul to complain that there's no cholent? Rabbi, where's the coffee? With no coffee, Rabbi? Shul's a coffee house? Go to Coffee Bean. Go to Starbucks, you want coffee. Shul is a place to daven. It is a place to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a place to learn Torah, to learn Musar, to work on yourself. It's a snack shop. It's a canteen. It's a fast food restaurant. It's a cholent house over there. That's what it is. No, so you missed the point. Go home. Think about it for another month. However long this one's going to last right now. Go ahead. You want the shul back for Yom D'Rayim? You want it back for Rosh Hashanah? Okay, let's get back for Rosh Hashanah. No complaints about the mask. Oh, Rosh Hashanah in shul with masks. 10 hours with a mask on my face. Would you rather be in my backyard for Rosh Hashanah? Would you rather be at home for Rosh Hashanah? With one man has to run around with a shofar and blow in everybody's single house, 20 different homes in the neighborhood. Is that what we would like? We'd much rather be in shul with a mask on our entire face and gloves on our hands. No coffee, no drink, can't use the restroom, nothing. And be able to daven somewhat like a mensch in a Beis HaKnesses than to have to be stuck in a backyard when the next door neighbor is playing some rap music while you're trying to finish your Shmoneh Esrei. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I gave you back shul and you complained. Because that's what man does. We just talk. We open our mouths, we espouse our opinions, we want everyone to know how we feel. So if you'll know how uncomfortable I am, then you'll know how uncomfortable I am. As I once was getting a ride someplace with somebody, and I said, how you doing today? He says, I can't complain. Doesn't help anyway, no one listens to me. And that's the bottom line. Nobody wants to hear the ideas and the opinions and the complaints and the criticisms and our attacks on the world. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want to see? Be a person of Maisa. Hayoim la'asaysam. The Gemara says, Hayoim la'asaysam. Today is for accomplishment. Ulamacha lekabel schar. Tomorrow you'll receive the reward. Kol tarech be'erev Shabbos. Anybody who works hard on erev Shabbos, yoichel b'Shabbos, they'll have something to eat on Shabbos. Anybody who sits around and talks all day long on erev Shabbos, Friday afternoon, they'll have nothing to show for themselves. And therefore, anybody who spends their time wisely in this world, not schmoozing away all the time. Okay, you have to have a schmooze once in a while. You have to let off some steam. You have to just relax. You have to sit up till late at night. Listen, Rabbi Akiva Eger, who was the biggest guy and the biggest genius of his generation. He was the Rav of Posen, and he was one of the main Paiskim, one of the main halachic authorities and giants of Talmud. When his wife passed away, he says, nobody knows my wife the way that I knew her. We used to sit up till the wee hours of the morning, discussing ideas and depth of Amunah, of faith and Yirah Shamayim. Only I know the deepness of the neshama of my wife. So certainly, talking about these things with your wife till the wee hours of the morning, that's something that's good. We're talking with your wife till the wee hours of the morning about all the other narishkeit that we speak about. Who says that's good? If you want to show the world who you are, you want to show yourself who you are. You want to show your wife, your spouse, your children, your community, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You want to show who we are. It's hamidrash ha'ikar. The talking is not the main thing. Ela ma'isa, the action. Ish lafi mahalala. You want to know who a person is. It's not just what they praise and what they talk about, but rather it is based upon how much you are accomplishing and you are doing and you are pushing forward in this world. And if a person sits back on his laurels, especially during this time, and we just offer our critical eye over the world, oh, if I was the governor, I would have done it like this. Oh, that president over there, if I was president, if you're president, you can barely even run your own house. How are you going to be president of the United States of America? Oh, if I was, if you were, but you're not. So just do something. Yeah, Nike had it right. Just do it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to be doing nonsense. He wants us to be doing things. I told over this Maisa around Pesach time. And that is that when I was a Bacher learning in Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, so one of my principal Rebbeim in life was Rav Naftali Neuberger. And he was a man, he spoke a little, but he accomplished so much. Nobody rarely ever heard him speak. He spoke a few words here and there, sparse words. But the accomplishments that this man had under his belt are enormous. Just if you will go to the campus of Ner Yisrael, and you will see something like 120 acres of land, and the buildings that were built over there, all under the leadership and the guidance of Rabbi Neuberger, a man that barely ever spoke. You'll see that Eina Iker, Lo HaMidrash HaIker, it's not the talking, rather HaMais, it's the action that a person does. I once asked him, Rabbi Neuberger, how are you doing? He said, I'm too busy to think about how I'm doing, how I'm feeling. That's the way that he lived his life. He was busy doing and accomplishing. So he once asked me if I would please learn with the son-in-law of the, I believe it was the senator of Maryland. Senator of Maryland was a Jew, and he had a son-in-law who was Jewish as well, who was getting interested in Yiddishkeit, in his Judaism. And I was very honored that Rabbi Neuberger asked me to learn with him, and I said, of course, Rabbi Neuberger, of course. And we began learning together every Wednesday afternoon, lunchtime in yeshiva. We learned Mishnayos together. And it was going along very well. 1 year, 2 years we learned together. We built up a whole connection. And one day the guy walks in and he says, I'm sorry to tell you this is the last time that we can learn together. I said, really, what happened? He said, I got a new job and my schedule changed. I'm not going to be able to learn together anymore on Wednesday afternoons. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to juggle my schedule. We won't be able to learn together anymore. Okay? I went to Rabbi Neuberger the next day and I told him that what the man told me. He told me that we can't learn anymore and he's very busy. Rabbi Neuberger said, okay, very good, fine, understand, you did a good job, 2 years, whatever it was. He said, listen, I want you to call him in 2 weeks. I want you to call him and see how he's doing. Fine, in 2 weeks I'll call him, I'll see how he's doing. 2 weeks goes by, I don't call him. I'm very good at the midrash, at the drushes. I'm very good at saying what I want to, all the nice things that I want to say. You see the contradiction of this entire class over here tonight. I'm talking about how good it is to be quiet, and I just can't stop talking. I'm not even reading in the text. I'm telling you what I think is on my own mind tonight. So I was very good at saying to him, yes, I will do it, of course. The Josh, I had it down. Well, the Maisa, the action itself, I didn't do so well. So I procrastinated. And the first week that I was supposed to call him, I didn't call him. So the next week, I get a tap on my shoulder and someone says, Rabbi Neuberger wants to speak to you. So I come running over to Rabbi Neuberger in the Beis Midrash, and he says to me, no. I said, yes. No. I said, yes. Did you call him? I said, oh, Rabbi Neuberger, I meant to, this and that, I didn't get around to it yet. I was, oh, okay. He said, don't mean to get around to doing something, just do it. I said, okay, I'll do it. And I went, and as soon as I was able to leave from the Beis HaMidrash, I went and I picked up the phone. This is in the ancient days before everybody had cell phones in their pocket. You had to go to a landline, and I picked up the landline and I called him to say hello and to see how he was doing. If you want to be a person of accomplishment, if you want to be a person who is well known, if you want to be a person who is going to make a difference in their own life and the life of this world, then the only way is not through the speech that is going to fall off of our lips non-stop, but rather Ela HaMaisa, the actions that we're going to do. And that's why the Mishnah ends over here, V'chol marbe dvarim. Anyone that is marbe, that talks way too much. And remember the Midrash over there. The Midrash says that every single one of us is allotted a certain amount of words from even before we are born. These conversations and the amount of words that are going to come out of our mouth is already determined. Now what you will use them for, that's up to you. How you will use them, how sparingly you will use them, how many conversations a day, that is going to be up to you. So you can stretch it out for 120 years, or you can use them all up in 65. You can stretch them out with beautiful words of Divrei Torah and have 90 years, 95 years of a passionate life that's filled with kedusha, with holiness and sanctity. Or you could end up wasting your 80 or your 90 years in this world talking about nonsense and ridiculous things that have absolutely no benefit and positive bearing on your life, nor anybody else that is around you. Stalin probably spoke quite a bit. Hitler, Yamach Shemoy V'Zichro, he was known for the gift of gab that he had. His speeches, his drushes were enormous. The people were swooning in the banisters over there. But look what he did with his speech. He destroyed the world. He killed 6 million Jews. He ended up convincing everybody that he was right, from the brightest, most intellectual people of that generation. So what will we do with our speech? Says the Mishnah, it's not really so much about what you do with your speech. It's what you do with your actions. That's really what counts at the end of the day. How will you be remembered? When you go to the levaya, to the funeral, and they start talking about all the things that they remember about a person, they don't say, I remember, they could schmooze for hours. Wow. They had so many amazing opinions on the President of the United States. I remember during coronavirus, they set up a blog and a podcast, and they would just sit there all day long talking about all the things that they would change if they were in charge of the world. Of course, they never did anything, but if they were in charge of the world, how many things they would have changed. I remember they had this AM radio station, and they had this very hearty voice with an accent. If there's an accent, it's even heartier. And they just sit there and they talk and they talk and they talk and they put down everything and everyone. That's not what they talk about by levayas, by funerals. You know that. When you go to a levaya, when you go to a funeral, you know what they talk about? They talk about the maisa, the actions of the person. This person gave so much tzedakah. This person had so much mercy on others. This person, they were the best father, they were the best mother. Should have seen the way that they would take care of their children. They were the best friend to everybody around. Everybody thought, you go to a funeral and everybody gets up, they thought they were the person's best friend. And then they find that everybody thought they were the best friend because of the way that this person treated them, how they took care of them, how they gave to them, how they would build them up, how they would make them feel. Ein hamidrash ha'ikar, the main thing is not our words. Ela ha'maisa, it's the actions that we're going to do. Klal Yisrael is in very dire straits right now. And it's so natural for each and every one of us to sit back right now, criticize, be opinionated, say over what we think, put down this and that. It's not going to work. We're holding by the 3 weeks Bein HaMetzarim right now. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, during the time that we are supposed to be preparing ourselves for the morning of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, which is the ultimate exile that has already been lasting for 2,000 years, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself has no place in the world to hang his hat. He has no place to go and to dwell comfortably. There's no more Beis HaMikdash around. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm going to let you feel a little bit more what that's like. Let's not waste the opportunity that are there in front of us right now. It's painful, it's sad, it's frustrating, it's disappointing that we have to be in the backyard again. It's all true. But let's try to use it for what HaKadosh Baruch Hu would like us to try to use it for, to the best of our abilities, and that is feel the pain of not being in shul. Don't talk about it. Don't blow off your steam. Don't get upset. Don't start saying, well, what's going to be? Yom Noraim. Don't worry about Yom Noraim right now. HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. Hashem can do anything at all that He wants to. If we will just put our money where our mouth is, we will put our actions where our words are. We will live a life of maisa, of action, where we will be redeemed as a result of the things that we accomplish and we do in this world, not just sitting around talking and accomplishing nothing. Then Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach Hashem, in His infinite mercy and His wisdom and His kindness to all of Klal Yisrael, He will see that today we are trying our best to accomplish. And the next day, tomorrow, is when we will receive the reward. Let today be the day that we do and that we accomplish and we act upon our thoughts, and even the speech that we allow to leave our lips, we follow through with what we said we're going to do. And then Lamachar, tomorrow, will be a better day when HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring the ultimate ma'aseh, the ultimate action that this world has been waiting for thousands of years already. And that is the Bias Goyal Tzedek, the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, Bimheira V'yameinu.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sure nobody has anything to say tonight, so I won't even ask if there's questions.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Have a good night, everyone.
Rabbi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I did not know a person is allotted a certain amount of words, and all I can say for myself is oily. You can laugh,
Okay.
because you're not in my shoes, Rabbi.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm sure you used your words for good things, and you should have Admei Ve'esim Shana to use them for even more good things.
VMO.
Amen. Okay, everyone. Have a very good night. All the best.